I'm already at full health.
Spider-Man is one of the most popular fictional characters to ever exist. No matter where you go, you'll be hard-pressed to run into someone who doesn't know him. With years of comic, TV, and movie history, it's no wonder that he would get his share of video games over the years. There were numerous attempts at side-scrollers in the 80s and 90s, some better than others. These games were fun, but they don't really make you feel like you are the web-slinger. It was unclear if any game ever could. Would there ever be a truly great Spider-Man game? One that would take place in a 3D environment? Fast forward to the mid-90s. Consoles like the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 would see their release, and with that, the question quickly shifted from if a 3D Spider-Man game would happen, to when. In 1994, Neversoft Entertainment would be created, a video game company that worked on the vast Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise, and of course, the subject of today's video. Announced in December of 1998 and eventually released in August of 2000 was the simply titled Spider-Man. This game was developed by Neversoft Entertainment and published by Activision. This game is commonly referred to as Spider-Man 2000 or Spider-Man PS1, likely due to there now being 3 separate games bearing the title of just Spider-Man. I always knew it as Spider-Man 64 due to me growing up having the Nintendo 64 version. Most versions of the game are the same aside from the PC and Dreamcast having enhanced graphics, and N64 using slideshows in the place of pre-rendered cutscenes. Spider-Man uses the same engine as the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, known as renderware. A few references to those games are present throughout the game, such as footage of it playing on the television in J. Jonah Jameson's office. Spider-Man would go on to be a playable character in Pro Skater 2. You really don't see anything like that happen today, so I have to appreciate it. Even Darth Maul from Star Wars was featured in the 3rd game. I've never even played these games, but upon discovering this, I have decided I'm now a fan. The game's voice cast is excellent, consisting of several returning stars from Spider-Man cartoons, such as Reno Romano as Spider-Man from the Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon, and Jennifer Hale as Black Cat and Mary Jane, along with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Doc Ock. Those last two returned from the 1994 animated series, but I digress. A few other standout performances would have to be Darren Norris as Venom and D. Bradley Baker as Carnage. The game's score would be composed by Howard Ulliott and Tommy Tallarico. Allegedly. I can't say much that hasn't already been said, but the music in this game is insanely good. General sound design in this game is quite good for the time, and the web shooter sound effect is satisfying, even after hearing it hundreds of times, which is really important. Some of these games have really annoying sound effects. Am I the only one who notices that? The title screen features a remix of the classic 1960s Spider-Man theme, sung by a robotic voice. An instrumental version of this plays on the main menu screen, and it's quite charming, with a little Spider-Man doing his best poses for you in the middle of the screen. If you sit idle for long enough, a demo screen will show up. This is a relic from a bygone era of arcade games. A lot of early PS1 and N64 games have them as well. Starting a new game presents you with 4 difficulty settings: easy, normal, hard, and
Kid mode!
What is this? I have never heard of a game having a kid mode before.
Kid mode.
From what I can tell, it's basically a simplified version of the game for younger players. For example, on normal difficulties, web swinging requires the player to jump and then swing using a separate button. In kid mode, however, you can swing by simply double tapping the jump button. There are a couple more differences that we'll find as the video goes on. The story begins at a science expo where Dr. Octavius is giving a presentation about his new invention.
Technology is the light that will cut through the darkness.
Peter Parker watches from the crowd and comments on his history with Octavius, not fully believing that he's given up his life of crime. In the comics, Dr. Octavius, also known as Dr. Octopus, is one of Spider-Man's oldest adversaries. First appearing in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 3. Also present in the crowd is Eddie Brock, also known as the supervillain Venom. In this game, Eddie Brock is taking photos of the event with the intention of selling them to J. Jonah Jameson. This was puzzling to me as when this game was created, the idea of Eddie Brock working for the Daily Bugle was not commonplace yet. The original comic version of Brock saw him working as a journalist for the Daily Globe. However, Spider-Man the Animated Series from 1994 depicts Brock as Peter Parker's rival at the Daily Bugle. This game is set in a world that's very close to the classic comics, but its clear inspiration was also taken from the animated series when you consider details like this, and the fact that multiple voice actors in this game come from Spider-Man cartoons. Suddenly, Octavius' security team are taken out by none other than Spider-Man, who then steals the device. Peter and Eddie bump into each other, but Eddie doesn't recognize him. Brock snaps a few photos of Spider-Man before his camera is snagged by a web and destroyed. Feeling humiliated once again, Brock imagines what Jameson will say to him when he returns empty-handed.
If I had given a real photographer that job, I would finally have the evidence to send Spider-Man away forever! You're through, Brock!
I tried to fight it. Can't fight him anymore! Again, innocence falls prey to the evil of Spider-Man.
Meanwhile, two mysterious villains can be seen celebrating the success of Phase 1 in their plan. Beginning Phase 2, a mysterious mechanical arm that totally does not belong to Doc Ock pulls a lever releasing toxic gas into the streets of New York. There's an explanation for this in the story, but the real reason is because the PS1 was not powerful enough to render an open-world New York City. So we're mostly confined to interiors or rooftops for this game. It never fails to make me laugh how the streets are completely empty before the gas is even released into the city. The game uses 6 specially designed comic book covers to represent each story chapter. These are not to be confused with the collectible comic book covers in this game that use real Marvel comic artwork. The first mission opens with a narration from Spider-Man's co-creator Stan Lee, as the camera pans through New York, showing various skyscrapers and Marvel landmarks, such as the Baxter Building from the Fantastic Four.
Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike. Once again, we find our hero Peter Parker, better known around the world as the Amazing Spider-Man, in a heap of trouble.
We arrive atop a building and Black Cat inexplicably drops out of the sky to warn Spider-Man of a nearby bank robbery turned hostage situation. First appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 194, Black Cat is a common love interest for the webhead, and shares more than a few similarities with DC Comics' own Catwoman. Not only is Black Cat not a love interest in this game, but Peter Parker is actually married to Mary Jane Watson here. Black Cat informs Spider-Man that he will need to use his Spidey compass to locate the bank. I appreciate the developers including features like this to make sure the player doesn't get lost, but it's funny hearing the characters talk about them like they actually exist and aren't just gameplay features. Upon swinging to this building decorated with bold letters spelling New York, in case you forgot which city you were in, the first of many hint markers can be found. Collecting these causes Black Cat to reappear and explain key mechanics such as web swinging, item pickups, and combat. Web swinging in this game is done by jumping and tapping or holding the web swing button. The game suggests holding it down, but the detection can be quite clunky, and in certain missions later on in the game, it's nearly impossible to successfully perform a web swing without spamming the button like there's no tomorrow. Another cool feature is the ability to manually target your swing, or zip to certain areas. This game doesn't feature any camera control to speak of, so it's handy to have a targeting system if you need to zip to precise areas. The biggest drawback with swinging is that Spider-Man will only swing from 2 web lines before automatically letting go and falling, so swings must be precisely timed to avoid falling into this game's numerous bottomless pits. Item pickups that refill health and web cartridges are scattered throughout the level, and later on in the game, Spidey armor power-ups can be found.
Ah, the old trusty Spidey armor.
This gives Spider-Man an armored suit and twice the amount of health he would normally have. I miss the days when video games weren't afraid of having power-up collectibles like this. If you weren't yet tired of hearing this, Spider Armor originated in Web of Spider-Man issue 100, and later went on to appear in the Spider-Wars arc of the 90s cartoon. Combat in this game consists of punches and kicks, with basic combos if the buttons are pressed in a certain order. Webbing is used for stunning or incapacitating enemies, which is neat but hardly useful after the first few missions. My favorite aspect of this game's combat are the special web attacks. Pressing the web button while a certain direction is held will perform special moves such as impact webbing, web pull, web boxing gloves, and even a web dome that defends Spider-Man from all damage for a short period of time. Spider-Man was constantly seen making constructs out of his webbing in his early days, an idea that seems largely forgotten these days, so I'm glad this game made use of it through these special attacks. Getting back to the story, Spider-Man continues on through the city, battling thugs along the way. These thugs were hired by the secret mastermind seen in the first cutscene, but I'm not sure if Spider-Man knows this. From what I can tell, I think he just assaults anyone that happens to be on a rooftop. A billboard can be spotted in this level advertising a biography on serial killer Cletus Cassidy, also known as Carnage, the symbiote spawn of Venom. A cutscene triggers when Spider-Man reaches the end of the level, showing police helicopters on their way to the bank, while also keeping an eye out for Spider-Man. He sure doesn't seem too bothered about seeing those people die in front of him.
Just my luck. I'll probably get blamed for that too.
At the bank, Spider-Man battles thugs from the Jade Syndicate, who are attempting to make a very large withdrawal. I wonder if this gang is related to the thugs in the previous mission, or if this bank robbery happening at the same time is purely coincidental. This level is considerably smaller than the last. One cool detail is that the Baxter building is now close enough to swing to, even having a comic collectible on top of it.
Golden.
After defeating the criminals, Spider-Man then breaks the glass and enters the bank, ending the level. Entering the bank starts a stealth sequence. This is quite possibly the first ever stealth sequence in a Spider-Man game. The robbers have taken hostages and are prepared to execute them as Spider-Man is spotted. You can take them out on foot, but it's more convenient to just jump or web zip to the ceiling and web them up from there. After clearing the area, there's nowhere to go but up. A vent cover lays on the ground to indicate that there's a ventilation shaft above. The vent leads to the security office, which contains multiple switches used to unlock nearby rooms containing hostages, and another switch to unlock the door to the next area, which is appropriately titled Area. After all the hostages have been rescued, Spider-Man heads to the lower level of the bank using the elevator. This is followed by another sequence of crawling along the ceiling, webbing up robbers. We then enter another security office that's right next to the vault. Inside, the robbers are working on planting a bomb. I'm not sure why, because they've already taken everyone in the bank hostage, but Spider-Man must deal with it regardless.
Big safe.
Which may lead some players in the right direction. But in the game's kid mode,
I need to put the bomb in a safe place.
Spider-Man saves the day, and with that, the first chapter of the story is complete. I'm surprised no actual Spider-Man villains were behind this robbery, like the Beetle or Shocker. These first few levels serve as a great introduction to this game's mechanics, while not setting the bar so high that the rest of the game feels boring. The next chapter, which is represented by this comic cover of the Scorpion, opens with a cutscene of an unmasked Peter Parker getting a phone call from J. Jonah Jameson.
Parker, shut up and dial 911. Scorpion's here, and you have to...
This scene is really funny because Jameson begs Peter to call 911 over the phone, a phone that could have just been used to call 911. Scorpion seeks revenge on Jameson for subjecting him to experiments that altered his body to be more like that of a scorpion's. What comes next is a race against time to make it to the Daily Bugle before Scorpion catches Jonah. A cool detail in this mission is the dialogue exchange between Scorpion and Jameson as Gargan closes in.
Your time is running out. Listen, Gargan, it's a new millennium. Lots of high-tech. There may be some way we can get you out of that suit. You put me in this suit. Now I'm going to make you pay.
The way they talk about the year 2000 here as if it's some futuristic setting is so hilarious.
Spider-Man? I asked for the police, and I get this?
Scorpion is the first boss battle in the game, so you can imagine my surprise when I was actually having a tough time with him. I tried basic attacks, but Scorpion knocked me down, taking huge chunks of health. I found that the best way to deal with him is to constantly jump around and punch from midair. Jameson will run from Scorpion and find different hiding spots as the battle continues. Scorpion sports a green and blue armored look here, which is from comics of the time, but was relatively short-lived before he inevitably returned to his traditional green outfit. Viewing footage of an earlier build of the game, I discovered that he was in fact originally meant to wear his fully green armor here, but this was changed for whatever reason. Spider-Man sure does fight a lot of green guys. After defeating Scorpion, the police show up and Jameson demands that they shoot Spider-Man immediately before he makes his escape and jumps out a nearby window. Spidey doesn't make it far before being stopped by Daredevil.
Hold it, Spider-Man. I don't want to believe that you pulled off the heist today, but I've got to make sure.
Daredevil! It's true. A Spider-Man made off with Octavius' new invention, but not the Spider-Man, not me.
Daredevil can sense that Spider-Man is telling the truth and says that he will spread the word about his innocence. Suddenly, a police helicopter shows up and the most intense sequence in the game begins. Spider-Man is chased across the city by police who are eager to make him a red and blue stain due to the events at the Science Expo. Billboards advertising a Wolverine interview, a Hulk radio station, a Captain America live show, and even a Fantastic Four Worlds tour can be seen in this level. It's a funny juxtaposition that the other heroes of this world are looked up to, while Spider-Man is immediately fired upon when framed. Continuing forward, we must use a few cranes to get across the level. What's cool is a crane can be found containing a hidden layer of the Green Goblin. A Spidey armor pickup can be found here, which gives us a much needed health boost. You have no idea how many hyphens were in that last sentence. The developers of this game spoke about wanting to include flying enemies such as the Vulture and Green Goblin, but never got the chance due to hardware limitations. It would have been great if they were included here, but I'm glad to say this was rectified by the time of the Spider-Man movie game on PS2, which plays very similarly to this game and features both characters. Spider-Man continues through the city, passing by billboards that advertise a newspaper called the Daily Gossip, that talks of reptilian creatures living in the sewers, a sign of things to come. Finally escaping from the helicopters, Spider-Man is again approached by Black Cat, who tells him that Venom has hijacked a screen in Times Square with a message for him. At the same time, Rhino is on a rampage at a place called Omnitech.
The Venom Marathon continues on the biggest TV in New York. We're shouting out to the whole big rotten apple here, people.
Sad thing is, he'll probably get his own talk show for this.
So we've got this beautiful redhead. You know her. She's one of those famous bimbos. Her name is Mary Jane Parker.
No. Mary Jane?
Spider-Man is tempted to put everything aside to rescue his wife, but Rhino is a bigger threat to innocent people, so he decides to stop him first.
Being Spider-Man has given me a lot and taken a lot away, but one thing never changes. My responsibility to use my powers for others before myself, no matter what the cost. There are innocent people at Omnitech, and they need our help right now. I won't let them down. Then I'll stop Venom. And this time, it's for the last time.
Chapter 3 of the story is represented by a comic cover depicting Spider-Man and Black Cat fighting the Rhino. In the comics, Alexei Stitsevich was a simple-minded thug working for the Russian mafia who was equipped with a special suit modeled after a rhinoceros. This cutscene when Spider-Man and Black Cat arrive at Omnitech is still hilarious to me.
At least one question. Where's Rhino?
The trick against Rhino is to stand in front of the electrical generators and jump out of the way at the last second, so he charges straight into them. Technically, you could go this whole fight just punching him like any other enemy, but it does such a small amount of damage that this way is easier. With Rhino defeated, the police arrive to capture him. Alongside them is none other than Otto Octavius. Ock uses a device called the Trap-matic to capture Rhino by giving him a big hug, I guess. Spider-Man quickly changes into his Peter Parker attire and walks with Black Cat as she's wheeled into the ambulance. She tries to tell Peter that these aren't paramedics, but is cut off by the door being slammed. Two mysterious figures can be seen in the ambulance as it drives away with Black Cat on board. For whatever reason, Chapter 3 only lasted for one mission, throwing us straight into Chapter 4. Spider-Man sits atop the Statue of Liberty talking to Johnny Storm, distraught about not knowing where Venom is. Johnny assures him that with his luck, Venom will find him. He's proven right when Spider-Man swings through the city unable to sense Venom, who is right behind him.
Parker hates it when I get the drop on him.
I hate it when he gets the drop on me.
In the comics, Eddie Brock worked as a journalist for the Daily Globe. At this time, a criminal named the Sin Eater was terrorizing the streets of New York. Brock eventually got in contact with someone claiming to be the serial killer, exposing his identity to the public. Things took a turn when Spider-Man caught the real killer, resulting in Brock being fired from his job. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is having problems of his own, discovering that the suit he's wearing is actually an alien life form known as a symbiote. Spidey eventually sheds the suit using a church bell, but unbeknownst to him, the symbiote is still alive, finding a new host in none other than Eddie Brock. With their combined hatred for the webhead, the pair now call themselves Venom. Alright, history lesson over. Back to the game. Venom gets the drop on Spidey and begins one of the hardest chase sequences in the game. Trying to keep up with Venom's movements with a PS1 control scheme is anxiety-inducing. If it was less strict on how close you have to be to Venom, I would really like this mission. Spider-Man follows Venom into a skyscraper where this funny gag happens.
Get out of my way, nerd! Watch that first step, Parker. It's a doozy.
Oh, toe, ow!
Look out, lady.
Oh my goodness!
Immediately after, the chase continues, but every time I play this mission, I'm plagued by a bug that forces Spider-Man to get stuck on this wall while Venom gets away. When you do eventually catch up with Venom, Spider-Man follows him into an alleyway for a boss battle.
Where'd Spider-Wuss go? Spider-Wuss! Come out and play!
I have the most nostalgia for this level in particular. I would always replay this one when I was little. It's essentially the Scorpion fight, but occasionally Venom will grapple Spider-Man, or turn invisible and reappear when you least expect. Turning invisible is an ability from the comics, but it only made a handful of appearances before never being referenced again, so it's cool that it shows up here. Jumping around and attacking from the air is still the go-to strategy here, but there are also a few dumpsters and a car in the alleyway that can be thrown. Speaking of the alleyway, this level takes place on the ground, as did the Rhino fight. I was under the impression that the gas released into the streets had rendered the city uninhabitable, but I guess not. I feel bad for any citizens on their way to work. It probably looks like Silent Hill down there. Venom's model in the PC and Dreamcast version of the game is one of my favorites when compared to the PS1 version. It's much more sleek and sinister looking, though the PS1 version holds a special place in my heart, as the blue coloration reminds me of the Marvel vs. Capcom Venom. After defeating Venom, he leaps into the sewers with Spider-Man not far behind. We then arrive in the sewers and chase Venom before coming face to face with lizard men that are left over from Dr. Connor's old experiments. That newspaper from earlier doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Continuing onward, a platforming sequence pops up in which we must swing across pipes suspended over a bottomless abyss. This is where target swinging mode really comes in handy, as trying to swing across the regular way will likely lead to a game over screen. There's a hidden area behind some pipes containing a comic collectible and a Spidey armor pickup, which is kinda unnecessary as we're in the middle of a platforming sequence. But luckily these power-ups carry between levels, so I still had it at the start of the next one. Spider-Man spots Venom on a nearby train and decides to hitch a ride. What follows is a non-stop battle against endlessly spawning lizard men trying to knock you off of the train. Ads for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 and to the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 313 can be seen along the sides of the subway tunnel. Spider-Man defeats the lizard men, only for Venom to appear and push him off the train.
Got to stop falling for us, Parker.
Next up is a puzzle sequence that involves flipping switches in a specific order to drain the water and continue to the next area. However, each area looks identical, and halfway through I couldn't even tell which direction I was going. I just had to hope it was the right way. Luckily, this part doesn't last long. We then arrive in a room containing a pool of water in the center, with switches placed in each corner. The solution is to swing across and activate the switches in order to drain the water, and then progress to the next area. I know I said the last level was short, but this one may be the shortest in the entire game. This whole thing takes place in a single room. I do wish this part of the game comprised of puzzles that required the player to use their brain to progress instead of traveling in random directions or flipping obvious switches to go to the next area. This game has shown that it can be more creative than that, so it's disappointing for something like this to happen, especially in the longest chapter of the game. Next up, Spider-Man travels through tunnels that fill with water every few seconds, so precise timing is needed in order to make it across without drowning. After this, he finds himself in yet another room filled with water. Real creative. The solution is to swing to the other end and flip a switch. Remember what I said about there being a lack of creativity in this part of the game? I don't expect the game to make you solve a Rubik's Cube, but I could have done without these sequences if they weren't going to do something more interesting. Venom escapes through a tunnel at the bottom of the room that was previously filled with water, and Spider-Man pursues him, only to be met with 4 steel doors blocking the way. A nearby room contains buttons that open the doors in a specific order, so the player has to be smart about which buttons are pressed. Ignoring the fact that buttons like this have no practical use in a sewer environment, I enjoyed this level. It's not the most creative thing in the world, and you could probably complete it in under 30 seconds, but I'll take this over swinging in a straight line to complete the level. This next area is a huge maze that Venom guides you through by playing hot or cold.
Starting to sweat here, Parker?
My favorite part is that if you take the first right turn instead of listening to Venom's directions, you'll encounter a cameo from the Lizard, who guides Spider-Man to his former lair.
Go back along this tunnel and cross over 2 waterways. At the 3rd waterway, go right. Follow it around the corners, past the machinery, skip the 1st tunnel intersection.
According to lead designer Chad Findley, the Lizard was planned to be a boss in this section of the game, with the final confrontation with Venom taking place atop the Brooklyn Bridge. Unfortunately, that idea was scrapped for time. It's still great to see him here, even if we don't get to face him in a one-on-one boss battle. The time has finally come for the rematch of the century. Jokes aside, I always thought it was funny how blunt this game is with the names of its levels. This one is simply titled Spidey vs. Venom Again. Mary Jane is suspended over a pit which is slowly being filled with water. Spider-Man disables the water pump, but we have to be fast, as Venom can appear anywhere in the room to activate the water once more. I quite enjoyed the tension of never knowing where Venom was going to pop up next, and trying to juggle protecting Mary Jane with defeating him. Once Venom is defeated, he explains that the reason he kidnapped Mary Jane was because of Spider-Man's heist at the Science Expo. Spider-Man is obviously very upset that Venom targeted his wife, so he knocks some sense into him, reminding him that they bumped into each other in the crowd, so the Spider-Man on stage couldn't possibly have been Peter Parker. Venom realizes his mistake and apologizes, but not before making things very awkward between Spider-Man and his wife.
Peter Parker! Just get me out of here now!
Bummer. You're in the doghouse now, dude.
Coming, honey.
With the confusion cleared up, Spider-Man and Venom decide to team up to figure out who framed Peter. Venom has some very interesting ideas, to say the least.
Tell me this, Einstein. Who could have wanted to steal Octavius' technology?
Ooh, we know!
Who?
The Submariner.
Submariner? Get serious, will you?
The mighty Thor.
Are you out of your mind? Don't answer that.
Galactus.
Forget it, Eddie.
I love the banter between them here. This has to be one of my favorite versions of Venom. Spider-Man suggests going to the Daily Bugle and checking their record, starting off chapter 5 of the story.
Here it is, the records room.
Surf the web.
Shut up, Brock, we don't have time.
Venom senses carnage nearby and decides to take a detour, leaving Spider-Man alone against numerous symbiotes. These symbiotes are some of the strongest enemies in the entire game. Webbing doesn't work on them, and they have a ridiculous amount of health. To make matters worse, they have a projectile attack if you try to crawl or swing away. Around the Bugle, there are trapped employees to rescue as well. Hopefully they get some overtime for being trapped in the office with killer symbiotes all night, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Spider-Man leaps down the elevator shaft, taking the elevator to the lower levels of the Bugle while dozens of symbiotes attack. This may be even worse than the train sequence simply because of how powerful these symbiotes are. It's very easy to get lost or stuck in this level, which can be frustrating as you need to find switches in order to start the elevator back up. Finally, Spider-Man reaches the printing press and discovers a machine pumping out symbiotes. The objective of this level is to destroy 4 of these generators, but I think the highlight of this area is the newspaper printer, which flattens Spider-Man if he falls into it. Fire-infused web cartridges can be found, which drain very quickly but are very helpful against the symbiotes, which are especially vulnerable to heat. Once every generator is destroyed, it's time to go to the basement, which has more in common with a Castlevania environment than a Spider-Man game if you ask me. This level is more of the same, traveling through rooms and destroying symbiotes. A really cool secret I found was this fake wall behind one of the generators. I thought this was a glitch at first, but I quickly changed my mind when I saw who the next level was about. Spider-Man continues down the hallway before running into another Spider-Man? The imposter Spider-Man then reveals himself to be none other than Mysterio, growing to the size of a skyscraper.
No, little spider! You will die!
Is it too late for us to be friends?
In the comics, Quentin Beck was a stuntman and later special effects artist who turned to a life of crime when he decided he could use his knowledge of special effects to imitate Spider-Man's powers and commit crimes. He doesn't have any powers of his own, he simply uses special effects to make it look like he does. This giant form is meant to be a reference to The Amazing Spider-Man 66 and 67. A 2-part storyline in which Mysterio uses his illusions to make it seem as if Spider-Man has been shrunk to 6 inches tall and trapped within a tabletop amusement park. Mysterio will attempt to squish Spider-Man with his hands and feet, so it's important to jump between floors in order to dodge his attacks. At one point in the fight, Spider-Man can be heard asking who mixes green and purple. That's funny considering nearly all of his villains use that color scheme. Eventually, Mysterio is defeated, and after some light encouragement, explains that the fog which covers New York is preparing citizens to be infected with symbiotes. He then says to travel to Warehouse 65, where there will be a hidden passage that leads to the masterminds behind this. Chapter 6 begins, and at this point the main villains are barely a secret anymore. We open with a cameo from Punisher, who is aiming a sniper rifle at Spider-Man before it's taken out by a web. Punisher comments that he thinks he and Spider-Man are after the same goal, which is odd since he was trying to shoot him 10 seconds ago. Spider-Man and Punisher both have very different ideas of justice, so Spider-Man tells him to stay behind and let him handle it. Entering the warehouse, Spider-Man is met with even more symbiote generators that must be destroyed. Upon disabling them, he discovers a hidden ventilation shaft and leaps into it, bringing him closer to the villain's base of operations. Finally entering the next level, I love the look of this environment. The science fiction design and bright lights against the dark blue ocean in the background make this one of the most beautiful looking areas in the game. The downside is that this is also one of the most difficult areas in the game, by far. Numerous laser guns have been set up on floating platforms, and to make matters worse, the floors and walls have been electrified, so there's no way to get across the room without swinging between platforms. You have to move quickly in order to dodge the lasers, and this is nearly impossible because trying to swing across almost never works and leads to Spider-Man falling to his death. The developers knew what they were doing making this section so hard. The next area is the Fog production facility, housing 6 walkways that lead into various labs. A huge symbiote generator can also be found in the center of the room, with a Spidey armor collectible on top. I'm surprised to see how well hidden these are on replaying this game. I seem to remember them being way easier to find. Maybe that's the case on lower difficulties. In the next room, Spider-Man finds Black Cat and unlocks the other control rooms. Using the computers in these rooms, Spider-Man is able to close off the ports that are releasing fog into the city and free Black Cat. With every port now closed, pressure begins to rise inside the base, causing everything to melt down. Spider-Man finally encounters the 2 main antagonists of the game, Dr. Octopus and Carnage. Doc Ock explains that his plan is to infect everyone with symbiotes, but that's all the explanation given.
Those who cannot share my vision will be crushed by it.
Doc Ock of all people should know that's a terrible idea. I already explained who Doc Ock was earlier, but for those unfamiliar with Carnage, I'll explain that now. Cletus Cassidy was a serial killer who shared a cell on Rikers Island with a depowered Eddie Brock. Eventually, of course, Brock's symbiote did return, but not before secretly reproducing and leaving a new symbiote behind, which bonded with Cassidy, transforming him into the monstrosity known as Carnage. Despite them both wearing symbiotes, Venom has some semblance of a moral code, while Carnage is pure evil with no regard for human life. As such, the two hate each other and have fought on numerous occasions. Speaking of which, Venom appears, and a battle ensues between the two symbiotes.
Speaking of crushed, it's showtime, freaks.
Leaving Spider-Man alone with Ock.
Alone at last. Let us end this, Spider-Man.
This is a pretty simple fight. All you have to do is run around in circles, hitting switches to disable Ock's shield before you can wail on him. That's really all there is to it. Why so underwhelming, you ask? Well...
Eddie, are you alright? Talk to me. Wake up, Brock. You say?
Carnage pulls Spider-Man into a room containing a sonic bubble in the center. Carnage is pretty tough compared to the earlier bosses, transforming his hands into axes and throwing pieces of symbiote slime. The strategy here is to knock him into the sonic bubble, which will weaken his symbiote. Repeat that process a few times, and Carnage is beaten. I wish I had more to say about this game's finale. It really went out with a whimper. If only there were one more level to really put our skills to the test.
Well, just another day in the life. Whoa! What the? Is that Ock?
Oh boy, it's not over yet. Welcome to my childhood nightmare. A Carnage-infected Doc Ock chase sequence. This must have been some kind of sick joke by the developers, because this was traumatizing as a young kid. His design and voice lines should be enough to give anyone nightmares. If you're wondering what to call this abomination, the in-game character model refers to it as Monster Ock. The entire base is coming down, and there's no telling how powerful this thing would be in a fight. So there's only one thing left to do. Run. This level is not easy. The camera perspective makes it so that you're running directly towards the camera more often than not, which makes it hard to tell where you're going. To make matters worse, no matter how well you perform here, the game automatically makes Ock catch up with you. More than a few times I got stuck on the wall right at the end and had to start all over. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I made it out, with Ock being engulfed in flames before getting the chance to escape. Afterwards, the Carnage symbiote leaves him for dead and slithers back inside the base. I wonder if Cletus Cassidy ended up surviving this. With the base seconds away from completely exploding, all hope seems lost. But just in time, Captain America shows up with the other heroes to rescue Spider-Man.
Spidey, can you get us Captain America's autograph?
Oh, brother.
Back home, all the heroes play Go Fish while Black Cat and Johnny Storm have a dance party in the background. I'm upset that no one has ever pointed out the fact that these bottles say superhero juice. Meanwhile, the villains are all sharing a cell in prison and are having their own card game. Mysterio having a photo of a girl in a swimsuit with a fishbowl taped over her face is hilarious.
Hey! Hey, I got a bingo! Ha ha! You guys think you're so smart, but I won! Ha! Wait a minute, I made a mistake.
It's teased that this may not be the last we see of these characters. Could there perhaps be a sequel? I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. Yes, there's a sequel, and it's been out for 24 years. With the story finally complete, we can now explore some of the game's bonus content. First up, the alternate costumes. A few of these we'll have unlocked by progressing through the story, such as Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, and the Black Suit, while others can be unlocked through various other means. The really cool part about alternate costumes in this game is that they grant you special abilities like unlimited webbing or health, which really helps make the game more replayable without feeling stale. Speaking of replaying, if you enter the cheat code shown here, you will unlock What If mode, a mode that tweaks the game in many ways. Some are cool and others downright wacky. A few examples of this include a random dance floor in the bank mission, brief appearances from Ghost Rider and Namor, bananas plugging the ports emitting fog, and Carnage now being voiced by a little kid. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in the meeting where the developers pitched this idea. Furthermore, there are comics that can be collected throughout the story that can be viewed in the extras menu with descriptions about those respective issues, and enough cheat codes to keep you entertained for years to come. Just don't put any bad language in this code entry or else this will happen. I had to do it to test this feature, I'm sorry Mom. Plenty of challenge missions are also available, one of which features a cool secret room containing Kraven the Hunter's equipment, and in another, a photo of the development team. When the time came for Neversoft Spider-Man to make its debut, it would end up releasing on more than a few consoles. First up was PlayStation and Game Boy Color in August of 2000, then Nintendo 64 in September, Sega Dreamcast in May of 2001, followed by Windows and finally on Mac in January of 2002. The Mac version in particular was published by Aspyr. Spider-Man would release to generally positive reception, with Nintendo Power Magazine giving it a 7.1 out of 10 and IGN giving it a 9 out of 10. This was before they gave that to every game, calling it arguably the best Spider-Man game, a statement which I believe holds true today. It's not like there was much competition at the time. It's unclear just how much this game sold, but it certainly did well enough to warrant making 3 sequels for 3 entirely different game systems. In 2001, a sequel to the Game Boy Color version was released, titled Spider-Man 2: The Sinister Six, followed by a true sequel to the PS1 game named Spider-Man 2: Enter Electro, before finally getting a standalone sequel for the Game Boy Advance, titled Spider-Man: Mysterio's Menace. Those are all different sequels spread across different consoles. This is where I would compare the game's cover art from each region, but it seems to be identical no matter where you get it. So instead, I'll just take this time to appreciate the Nintendo 64 version, with its sleek box art and extra special red cartridge. The game did also have its very own tie-in comic that serves as a prequel to the game. It was published as part of GamePro magazine, and despite just being 8 pages long, it was put together by more than a few people, including Brian Michael Bendis, who is famous for writing the Ultimate Spider-Man comics throughout the 2000s. Alright, so what's this thing about? Our story begins with Spider-Man in a fight with Carnage. Spidey gains the upper hand and ties him up with webbing before tossing him into electricity and knocking him unconscious. Omnitech scientists arrive to collect samples of the Carnage symbiote for experimentation, which I guess explains what Omnitech does, since the game didn't feel like disclosing that information. We then cut to the vault, where Carnage has been locked up alongside many other supervillains. Prison guards assure Spider-Man that it is impossible for any villains to escape before a news broadcast comes on, announcing that Otto Octavius has been granted his parole, and is totally a good guy now. Upon hearing this, Spider-Man exits the vault, swinging off into the night. Doc Ock's little character bio here explains that the tentacles were permanently attached to his body, which I find funny considering he doesn't have them here, or at the start of the game. Anyway, I digress. Later that night, the vault is attacked by someone. I can see Doc Ock tentacles, but I can't tell what this silhouette is trying to depict. Carnage is now free, and joining him are Rhino and Mysterio, which will make trouble for the webhead while Ock creates an army of symbiotes. I wonder if Omnitech supplied Doc Ock with symbiote samples that he then cloned to make his army, or maybe Rhino was robbing them in the game. Anyway, that's it for the tie-in comic. It's nothing crazy, but the art is great, and it's cool to see what happened leading up to the story of the game. In November of 2019, an interview with the game's lead designer Chad Finley revealed that he was interested in making a remastered version of the game, but that it would be unlikely due to the nightmarish licensing and approval process that are around these days. I would definitely be excited if something like that were to happen, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. This game is undoubtedly one of the most important superhero games to ever release. Without it, there's no telling what superhero games would look like today. This game established ideas that are still being built on today, and I'm forever grateful that I got to experience this classic that was made by so many people who clearly love this character. I will continue to treasure this game and replay it for years to come. Thanks for watching. This has been quite a journey putting this together and learning everything there is to know about this game. It's a satisfying feeling to craft something that I hope will have enough impact that it will inspire others to check this game out, nearly 25 years later. If you'd like to see more from me, I have 2 other YouTube channels, one used for showcasing mods and other content in video games, and the other for Let's Play style videos. Links to both channels along with my social media pages will be in the video description. Until next time, see you then.